we talked about basses on and off for years.
Yeah, I think the first time we actually talked about, I think the first time you broached the subject of being interested in the idea of kind of even talking about what I would want in a bass was about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And my initial reaction was, okay, so I get that question quite a lot. I think because of what I do, because the application is quite different from your average bass player, bass builders in general are kind of intrigued by that as a set of kind of things to work towards. And was that how it was for you? Was it like, okay, you make really...
Well, I mean, obviously you had a pretty established relationship with the instruments that you work with, you know, and that was the thing. Is like you're somebody who clearly had like a persona that included not just you, but it extended beyond you and into the equipment, because you know you do so much equipment-based, you know, soundscaping, I guess one way to put it. Yeah. You know, so it was kind of interesting to think about, you know, well, what would you want that you don't already have, or how would something else influence what you do?
And that question, you asking me that, and me and yourself that question, was why I didn't shut you down. Because, like I said, I've had that approach a lot of times, and sometimes the person who comes to me and says, I'm interested in, you know, talking to you about an instrument, their response is to say, because I think I can take your sound to the next level, or something like that. And my response is, I'm sorry, since when did you have any insight into what I'm trying to do at all? Like, and this is always people who've never ever expressed any interest in my music at all.
Yeah.
And I think because you and I had also had an ongoing conversation about what I was up to as a performer and a music maker, that it didn't come across as you have a profile in England and I need a launch.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've never been someone who's been really motivated to collect artists.
Yeah.
Because you see a lot of that, and there are a lot of people who they want to sort of corner the market on promotion just by getting artists obligated to them somehow. You know, but that's the thing. It's like that's not really a relationship with the artist. That's just like, we have this thing, take it. Yeah. And you know, do something with it that we can promote. You know,
and this, even at the conversation stage, this felt like it was much more about a collaboration, about trying to find a kind of a shared thing to explore, because what I do is so specific in terms of its creative demands, but also because, as you say, I had that relationship. I still have that relationship with Modulus, and the sound that they offer is actually quite well defined. So there was a lot of room outside of that to go, here's something new. So it's not a matter of going, this is better than that, this is what, that wasn't the conversation. The conversation was, actually there's a whole other scope for what I do to be facilitated in a different way by a different kind of instrument.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It seems like sometimes, you know, when you do get really, really familiar with the instrument that is your primary instrument, sometimes you start, not that you stop looking for other ways to expand your palette, but sometimes having something else sort of introduced, sort of thrown into the mix, it sort of changes your perspective a little bit, even just, you know, for a moment.
And I always did that with pedals.
Yeah.
So I would always do that with the pedals of processing, and very rare. And so, you know, I don't collect basses. I'm not somebody who goes, you know, I don't get restless and buy a bass.
Yeah.
So for me, it was about getting to that point, and then so that conversation, because you're in Chicago and we meet up here at the bass show or at NAMM, that's a conversation that then took 3 years before it got to the point of going, okay, what is it that you actually want?
Yeah.
And so, and that's when that combination of our personalities became really kind of like it suddenly became clear that this was going to work in a really interesting way. As if by magic. So so I had kind of, you can see the string spacing stipulation. And so, but every time I would come up with something, you were able to then process the practicality of that. And so you went, okay, well if it's 17 mil, then you can do the smaller body size, which again suited me.
Yeah, because you wanted to have something that was a little bit more physically manageable.
Yeah.
So this is kind of about accommodating, you know, what was comfortable and familiar, while still having something that was a little bit new and different, but met some of your expectations in terms of performance?
I think that it was really interesting for me. The neck side of things was really interesting because with Modulus, it was always, there's just like that, the neck. It's like, comes out of a mold. So if you're used to working with phenolic or graphite or whatever, it comes out of a mold and that's the thing. And all of a sudden it's like, actually we can have a much more nuanced conversation about what that involves, about depth, about wood choices, about obviously scale length. And so we got to kind of, to kind of just like that. And, but there were a lot of things where I just went, I don't know, you made that decision.
Yeah.
And I think because I was deeply familiar over the course of maybe 15 years with how broad your scope was, but also just how well made everything was, that I'd never played a single bass of yours and went, what was Rob thinking? Like, what's this about? Like, there was none of that. So, except this one maybe. But so when you said SR strength through the body, I was like, if that's what works, and you'd go, what about this wood? If that's the wood you think is the right wood, let's go with that. And that went right down to the one thing. So when we had the conversation about pickups, that was really funny because I wanted single coils. I wanted it to kind of have that sort of more.
So like a traditional pole piece single coil.
Yeah. So that sort of sound, that sort of character to it, and that because of the 17mm spacing, that limited our options somewhat. And what I'd read about arrows, I was like, I don't think that's really the thing I'm looking for. And what's funny is that you went, screw that. This is what's right.
Well, the thing was, we talked about a different pickup, and I was like, okay, well, I'll check in to see what the spec is, but there's chance that the strings aren't going to align properly with the poles because of the spacing and the pickup location and the combination of those peculiarities, if you want to call them.
Yeah.
And so I called up and got the spec, and I was like, well, that's not going to work. Because even if it aligned properly with the two center strings on the 6th string, it would be progressively more out of alignment as you get to the outside strings. So, Larry can make anything you want. So I said, well, here's my pickup. This is the string spacing at the pickup locations, and looking for a single coil pole piece pickup. And so he just made some that fit the bill, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's amazing. It's kind of it's exactly what I had envisaged for that, and it's completely different from anything else that I play. And then we had some fun with the electronics because again that I didn't want to blend control. There we go. This is where we get really geeky. And so it goes volume, tone, like a kind of classic Fender line, but then there's a switch, so you can just switch between the two pickups, front, back, or both, which is all I ever use. Like when I use a blend control, I'm constantly going to the extremes. So it's like, can I just do that with a switch? And then this, which is a kill switch, so I can do crazy stutter effects, which is obviously the kind of thing you need if you're playing in an Oasis tribute band or that kind of thing. But for like weird shit, it's really useful. So having that, and there are a couple of other kind of little things about it that were fun to experiment with. So it's a hollow in the top. But again, I think this is kind of a smart move to not put an F-hole in it, because obviously that's quite.
Well, that most people do that as a matter of aesthetic. They want to advertise the fact that it's hollow body because it's in some cases less a concept and more just
it's a sales thing. And I think with this, obviously it alters the weight, but I'm very conscious of the way that hollow instruments, for me, change the mid-range.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is with when you hollow out the body of bass guitar or a solid body, what would be traditionally a solid body guitar, it changes the way the note blooms, so to speak. That the way and it's particularly interesting the way it affects fretless basses. But at the same time, if you're using a soft piece of wood, a lightweight piece of wood, and then you hollow that out, sometimes you really, really end up making the response of the instrument really slow. And that's the thing is, you've got somebody who's got a history with a synthetic neck instrument with relatively, dense body woods, and you think, okay, well, how are we going to maintain the kind of responsiveness in a hollow body wooden instrument that your expectations have come to take for granted?
Which is, which again was a kind of an amazing conversation to have, because I would never, like, that's moon language, all that kind of stuff about wood. Like, I go, what is it? This bit's brown, and this bit's a lighter brown. So when people ask me when they got it, they say, man, what's that top wood? I'm going, it's brown, and it's pretty. Look, I don't know, that's not my concern.
Yeah.
And because again, it's one of those crazy things, because you get it with sounds. People go, what overdrive are you using on that? I go, well, it's this pedal, but like the totality of the signal chain is why it sounds like that.
Yeah.
And what's going on here. So that was why there was a whole load of that stuff that I was more than happy to leave to you, because I think that there's a lot of practicalities that go into making an instrument, and I think that it made sense for me to go, okay, here's artistically what I want to be able to do with it. Here's the things that are non-negotiable, like the string spacing. Everything else, I don't need to try and make myself sound clever by going, yeah, I really want a koa, but it's like, I don't know.
Well, and that was really an important part of being able to make something that worked properly for you, because I have had in the past incidents where you talk to somebody and they say, well, I want a guitar that sounds like this, and they describe in great detail what they expect from the instrument that they want to order, and then they say, and I want it made from all these woods, and you say, well, those two things are not gonna work together. So if you build it like this, it's gonna sound nothing like what you're describing. And every once in a while, you meet somebody who's like, well, that's okay, but that's what I want. You say, well, okay, if that's what you want, I have to disclaim any responsibility for your tonal expectations of the final product, because you're basically telling me that this wood selection is more important to you than the sound. And it's like, okay, well, obviously the sound has got to be the most important thing. So in this case, that had to be the end goal.
So I was able to abdicate that and not kind of feel like I needed to pretend that somehow that was my choice, because so it definitely this end result. There's this one here. There's the one on the table, which is one that's it's kind of weird seeing it. It's a bit like. Well, it's like for me, it's like looking at pictures of Geddy Lee and going, "Wow, that's me in the future." How weird!
I don't remember doing that.
Yeah, well, that's what I watched in Rio, and we were looking at it going, I don't remember this gig. Like, what? How? It's clearly me, but why? How? Yeah, that's weird. Anyway, but this feels like it feels like a collaboration in the least compromised sense of the word. It feels like we've come up with between us, we've come up with something that meets all of those things that I needed, but then also gave you room to do what you do. I mean, it's so obviously an Elrick. It's not like I went, okay, I need to change the historic design, I need to change that. And yet, aesthetically, because it's a 6-string on a 5-string body, it's all slightly, it's instantly recognisably Elrick, but slightly different from standard construction. And that just felt like a kind of, that feels good from a
and it really is nice to do a passive bass, because to have something where the signal's getting out of the instrument as strong and clear as possible without any compression or degradation or any kind of negative influence from going through a circuit that's being powered by an indiscrete power supply, really makes a big difference that a lot of people kind of take for granted. Because we've had so many years now where the expectation has been an instrument with a preamp, because if you don't have a preamp, you're short selling somebody. But the sound of almost any pickup really opens up when you bypass the preamp altogether. So
that's for sure. So this is what we ended up with. It's 33-inch, 17mm spacing, passive aero single coil pickups, volume tone. Pickup selector switch and freaky kill switch for people who want to do weird noises. It's my baby.